What is going on, guys? Jack here, and welcome to a Football Manager 2014 announcement features video. Basically, for those of you who don't know, I've been on holiday. I'm a little bit late to the party, but I'm basically going to be talking about the new major features that have so far been announced for Football Manager 2014, the kind of implications of these additions, my general views, you know, just talk a bit about what I like about what they're doing, what I don't like, and really just keeping you guys up to speed. And adding my own flavour on things. I don't want to just sit here and ramble to you guys about what's already been announced. I want to kind of give my own perspective and kind of just throw some ideas against the wall with you guys listening. So, the first major new feature is the improved match engine. Now, unfortunately, I can't put any video of the match engine footage in the background yet. I'm in the middle of talking to Sega's legal team about getting rights to upload the Football Manager 2014 videos early to my channel, which would be pretty cool. So I can't show you any of the 3D match engine. However, I will link a video down in the description if you've not seen it already. But basically, we have enhanced AI, improved lighting, player animation, and individual player character kit and models have also been overhauled. Now, I've seen some of the alpha footage myself, and it is important to remember that this is kind of a few months away, the release potentially, so they have got time to work on it, but in all honesty, it's not a major improvement. You know, the match engine is something that I think the 2D match engine as a whole has reached its limit. In terms of the 3D match engine, it's got a lot of progress. You know, the graphics aren't great on it. In terms of how it actually plays, it plays absolutely fine. But the graphics themselves and the 3D match engine and the engine itself hasn't been redone since I think Football Manager 2010 or 2011. And whilst that's only 3 or 4 years ago, the rate at which graphics as a whole in gaming have improved over the time means that Football Manager's been somewhat left behind. And I'm not saying let's go out and make next-gen console FIFA graphics. I just feel as if there is room for improvement in the match engine. So that's a little bit of a, you know, a disappointment, I suppose, but it's one of the only disappointments I really have with FM 2014 so far. Next up, we have the tactical overhaul. There's been a complete redesign of how tactics are created, selected, and implemented. Now, they haven't shown too many screenshots of this, but what they have shown is a few interesting ones. One shows that when you're creating a player, you have the role that your player has, such as advanced playmaker, but then you can also set them individual instructions like run with the ball or pass to the right, or, you know, focus passing right, which basically means that as well as having kind of a role that you set your player, you're able to make their role further unique by telling them specific instructions that you want to do. So you might have a ball-winning midfielder who's really creative, so you might have him set as ball-winning midfielder, but then tell him that you want him to play the elaborate pass or regularly try through balls through an individual kind of instruction. So it's a cool little idea. On the subject of roles, there are new player roles. There's at least 10 at the moment. And I believe there's also some new instructions, however, they haven't yet been shown. And one other thing that they have announced, but they haven't gone into further detail with, is improvements to rival AI managers so they'll adapt to your tactics readily over time. So, something a little bit interesting there. I believe that that was already somewhat in the game, so what that change is, I guess time will tell. We'll find out when we play the game. Next thing, more realistic transfers and contracts. Football Manager 2014 features a revamped transfer module where opposing clubs and managers adopt a more realistic approach when responding to transfer offers. So my general understanding of this is not this in the sense that the transfer fees are more realistic, but when it comes to negotiating with teams, like with contracts where you'd have the agent and, you know, you negotiate contract instantaneously, there's some form of negotiation with club that's on a similar instantaneous level. So that's pretty interesting. There's also new real-world transfer clauses such as loan backs. So with the Wilfried Zaha deal, for example, he was bought by Manchester United, then loaned back to Crystal Palace for the remainder of last season. That's something that's going to be really interesting to see. So that's cool. And there's also new contract clauses like sub-bench appearance fees. So when a player comes on off the bench, you have to pay him or not pay him, as I believe it might be. So this is the idea, is that it's a kind of safety net in a player's clause, so that even if he doesn't get in first team football, you're still paying him quite a lot of money through this kind of new fee. So that's cool. I'm pretty sure there'll be some more contract clauses, but they've not announced any as of yet. Next thing up is the more sophisticated board interaction. Along with contract negotiations being more realistic, as I've already mentioned, managers and boards can now make demands and lay down their respective visions to the club, both in job interviews, which is a newer thing, and in contract renewals. So when you go for a job now, there is an interview process whereby the board will interview you, maybe ask about your philosophy of football that you want to play, and if you go, well, we're going to play free-flowing attacking football, and the director has a preference towards this, then he's more likely to give you the job. Another thing is that when you set up your manager, you can set a preferred formation. So my guessing is with this, maybe you have a preferred formation of, say, 4-4-2, and the club plays a 4-4-2, or the directors prefer a 4-4-2. You may be more likely to get the job. Another cool little thing in addition with this is there is a new kind of start unemployed mode, where you can start unemployed, but you can only then apply for jobs which are available. So it's a bit like starting off unemployed in FM, except it kind of makes stuff like doing the Pentagon and starting up a little bit easier. So that's, every little helps, I suppose. There's also improved interaction with players and staff. So now it's been announced there's better interaction between players and managers, their rivals, and the media. So my understanding from this is that we're not going to have the same kind of conversations go on in boardrooms and whatever all the time. There's also been a separate announcement made, which I'll come on to at the end of the video, about how you can get your captain to one side and tell him, oh, such and such is struggling in training. Would you be able to have a word with him? And him, as a senior squad member, the captain, will then go and talk to other players. So it's no longer just about what you communicate with your team, but you seem to have a lot more kind of inner club communication that you have some control over. So I mean, that layer of depth is always good. There's also the introduction of end-of-season meetings to let the squad know how they get on. Team meetings are a funny one in FM13. Sometimes you can have one every other month, and then sometimes suddenly the players will be like, oh, great, another meeting, and they go off in a tantrum. So I feel as if this kind of end-of-season meetings are a cool little feature. Going to be interesting to see how it kind of affects morale, I suppose. So that's another thing. And also, members of the coaching staff, and this is kind of separate, will give you regular updates on how players are training, as well as how reserve and youth team players are performing, maybe suggesting players from the lower teams that you should be promoting or considering playing in the first team. So that's cool. We also have the new news system. This has been overhauled so managers can deal with many club matters directly from the inbox. So a great example of this is if an agent offers a player to you, rather than having to click on the player profile then offer him a contract, it will actually show all the player's main attributes within the inbox page, so you no longer have to do the extra clicking. And whilst that seems like a really small addition, just making the whole user interface of Football Manager that little bit sleeker, that little bit cleaner, is great to see. And I mean, it's almost perfect as it is, and all these little improvements just make me think that, well, FM14 in terms of usability is going to be absolutely superb. Another thing is scout reports. They all appear in a single news item rather than for every single player. So you may have experienced you scout 10 players on one day and you get 10 scouting inbox messages. Now they all get grouped together and kind of presented in a manner that's a lot easier to deal with. And messages are colour coded as well based on category, which really helps you when it comes to kind of distinguishing messages. Maybe you're looking out for a transfer negotiation to come back or a contract offer to be sent to you. I know a few times I've made transfer offers for a player, the other club come back and negotiate a deal, and you miss the message in your inbox, and because it gets to 2 weeks later and you're like, oh crap, they tried to negotiate with me and well, I've run out of time now. That's something that the colour coding will hopefully help to avoid. Another thing we have is an enhanced user interface. Now, Sports Interactive have done a separate video on this. I intend to do a separate video on this. As I've mentioned earlier, I'm waiting for the Sega legal team to get back to me about whether or not I can use the video footage. What you can see on screen, all the pictures and stuff, is stuff that I got sent in the press pack, but I didn't get sent any videos, so I'm trying to sort that out with them. But basically, the user interface has enjoyed a major change. Key areas have been redesigned. Training is a big one. The transfer centre and news homepage, which I've already mentioned. Training seems like it's going to be a lot more in depth than it was in FM13. I know a lot of people miss the training system from FM12, and whilst the new FM14 training system isn't like this, it's going to be something a little bit more in depth, a little bit more in detail, and the improved coach interaction combined with this means that your coaches will come out and tell you where players have been performing well in training, for example. So that's really good to see. And also, the language employed throughout the game has been overhauled and now corresponds more closely to the language of real football. So take from that what you will. My understanding of this is that in stuff like press conferences and maybe when you get scout reports, there's going to be a little bit more elaborate language used rather than kind of the same kind of phrases used again and again. And one last thing to close out this video is Football Manager Classic evolved. Managers can now choose more than 3 playable nations in Classic mode for a more immersive experience, and FM's Fast Play mode now includes a transfer deadline day, match plan wizard, and new unlockables. The most exciting of these 3 things for me is the match plan wizard. It's a interesting system. Essentially, what it allows you to do is, if you choose to sim a game or go on holiday for a game, you set instructions for your assistant who takes the game, whereby if we're losing after 15 minutes, switch more defensively, for example, or if we have less than 50% of possession, switch passing to shorter. So the idea is that although you're simming the game, you have some control over the decisions that your assistant makes, which is an interesting idea. And whilst I don't holiday or play classic games myself, I can certainly see a use for it. One more thing about Classic mode is now that you can transfer an FM Classic save for PC onto your PlayStation Vita and play the Football Manager handheld kind of game on Vita, but load up your Classic save, if that makes sense. So this kind of cross-platform compatibility of saves. This is only for Classic mode, but it's an interesting concept and something that I certainly hope they can elaborate on in the coming years, and it opens a whole new scope for FM on a kind of mobile level. So another nice addition, and cloud saves run in tangent with this. Cloud saves have been announced, which basically means that when you save a game, it's saved up in the cloud as well as locally. And so you're less likely to get corrupt saves and whatever. So those are the major announcements that got sent to me in the press pack. I'm more than aware that a load of more announcements were made on Twitter. I'm going to cover some of them in separate videos. The more major ones has kind of been 5 announcements a day, and because I've been away, I've not had a chance to get this out, but I just wanted to kind of address the major features that have been announced, give my take on it, talk a little bit more about what each of these offers. So if you enjoyed the video, guys, please leave a like. If you've got any comments, let me know which of these features you're most excited about. If you're not already, follow me on Twitter. Link is down in the description. I'll be posting all the FM14 news as I get it, and it's the best way to get in contact with me if you want to ask something about FM14 going on in the future. So yes, guys, as I said, thank you for watching. It's nice to be back from my holiday. Tomorrow I will have a Road to Glory episode up for you guys, so hopefully you're looking forward to that. And other than that, it is me, Jack, and I'll talk to you guys in a bit. I'm out.